Welcome back to What the Football?
What the football?
What the Football?
And there it is.
I'm your host, Caleb Regler, along with,
Your co-host Teague Morosky.
and we are back for another What the Football episode for y'all today. Preseason's over. No more preseason.
Aw.
Don't be sad, because all that means is the next football game that we will see will actually matter. I am
Oh, yay.
I'm
Oh,
insanely excited. We have 10 days until the Buccaneers play the Cowboys, and on September 9th, next Thursday, and I could not be more excited to get the season kicked off. But before that, there are 5 more What the Football episodes until then. So make sure you're here for all 5, because today we actually have a pretty fun episode for you today. We have the Mount Rushmores of the NFC teams. We did our Panthers, we did our Chargers, so we won't be doing the Panthers today, and then we won't be doing the Chargers on either Wednesday or whenever we do our Mount Rushmore for the AFC teams, because we already covered those in our last episode. Check that out on YouTube if you haven't already. And but today we're gonna go ahead with the other 15 NFC teams. So I guess let's just get started in the NFC least. Easiest way to kick it off so that we can just kind of bust through these teams. NFC least, all these teams kind of suck and don't matter. So if there is anything that you should know about this podcast, we've said it before and we'll say it again. We are an NFC least hate podcast first and an NFL podcast second.
Definitely.
So we'll go with the Dallas Cowboys first. Tadhg, what you got?
So Cowboys, it's tough because they have so many great players in their storied history. But I think what I did for this list, I was realizing I was doing more, not even maybe their best players of all time, but just the most iconic players for that team.
Sure.
So for the Cowboys, the big 4 I have are Roger Staubach, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and Troy Aikman.
You said Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hate to break it to you.
Shocked that you copied me, genuinely. This is just shocking.
I mean, here's the thing. I would be remiss if I didn't have all 3 of the triplets in there.
Exactly.
I mean, they won them 3 Super Bowls out of their 5 within the span of 5 years, 6 years, wherever it was. I mean, in the 90s. I mean, that team was so good for such a small amount of time.
The last time they were good.
Pretty much, yeah, the last time that they meant something, which you'll find true for a lot of these NFC least teams. And then Roger Staubach. I mean, the other people, I kind of went with you here, where it might not necessarily be the best players sometimes, but who is like Mr. Cowboy or who is Mr. whatever team we're doing.
Yeah.
Like when I think of the Cowboys, who do I think of? That's kind of where I go. Obviously, a lot of the times, if not all of the time, it's going to be a good player.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of hard to be a good player. Or it's kind of hard to be a bad player while also embodying what a team stands for and embodying that team being the front runner, being the poster child for that team. So
but on that same note, like a notable name missing would be like Dion Sanders. But my issue is he played for so many teams.
Yeah.
That like the only guy I would have left off was Troy Aikman, talent was, but there's no way Troy Aikman is the most cowboy looking quarterback that you could ever find,
literally.
And so he's like what you think of. So that's why he made the list over Dion, just because Dion had a few other teams he played for.
Yeah, and for some of these, spoiler alert, I included a coach.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So like sometimes, I mean, I might have even put Jimmy Johnson here or even Jerry Jones, because like when you think of the Cowboys, you think
that's true.
No doubt is literally the house that Jerry built. So like he has a very, I think out of all the 32 owners in the league, I think he's the most what's the word that I'm trying to polarizing. I think
definitely
out of all the owners in the league, definitely has the most impact on his team and impact on just the world around football, I think, as well.
Oh, no doubt.
But we'll move right along here to the New York Giants. Teague, who do you have here?
So starting it off, if you don't have LT, it's not a correct list.
Correct. Yep.
I have LT, and then it gets a little interesting just because I was looking. There aren't too many notable studs I was finding with this team. I was like, okay, there's some good players here, but no one that's jumping off the page.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, I have Michael Strahan as well. And then I have Eli Manning.
So we're 3 for 3 so far with each other.
And then this dude, Emlyn Tunnel.
Okay. Well, yeah, we talked about him before on the episode
Yeah,
or on the pod.
on the pod. He had a lot of interceptions. He was just, back in the day when they used to get a lot of interceptions in a career. I think he had 74 in his career, which is top 5 all time.
Second most all time, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the first 3 I'm very confident in. The last guy, honestly, I looked up a list of best Giants players ever, and he was right at the top. And I was like, all right, we'll just run with him. But the other 3 came from my heart. So what about you? Who's your fourth?
So I mean, I had Eli, Lawrence Taylor, Michael Strahan. I mean, it's hard to not have those on here. And I could have put people like Tiki Barber on here, or even Emlyn Tunnel. I didn't. A lot of these time, or for some of these teams, we're gonna have players that we might not have necessarily seen because we're not 90 years old.
This is
so at least for some of these, we also while me and Teague are doing these episodes, we try to educate ourselves as well while educating you guys. Just to make us, just to learn more about football and then pass that knowledge on to y'all. So I have a guy, Frank Gifford here. He played 12 seasons all with the Giants. He had over 136, or he had 136 games played. He had 7.5 yards per touch whenever he got the ball. And then he won an NFL championship with them back in 1956. So, I mean, a guy that played his entire career with the Giants, over an over 10-year career, did very well, and then won a championship back before the Super Bowl was a thing. So I put him on. Absolutely, you could put Emlyn Tunnel on that list as well. And I apologize, we have not talked about him on the podcast before. But me, Teague, and if y'all remember Jake, we were talking about a list of like best safeties all time.
That was in the car
a couple days ago. Yeah, we were all in the car, and this dude's name just kept popping up, and we're like, "Who is this man?
Who is this guy?"
So yeah, good shout with the Emlyn Tunnel. Who do we got next? Ooh, Jake's favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you got here?
All right. Well, up first, I have Reggie White.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. You can't have this list without him.
Of course. And then there's another guy you can't have this list without, is Brian Dawkins.
Agreed.
Those are the 2 staples.
Yep.
I do have Brian Westbrook, another great player from an era that I was able to see a little bit more.
Okay.
Rather than going way back when. And then last but not least, the first iteration of this moment, I have Andy Reid.
I thought I was going to be special putting Andy Reid here.
Oh, shocked that you are. Shocked. We should be.
I mean, he took him to 5 straight NFC championship games?
Exactly.
I mean, they only won one of them, but like still.
We don't have to talk about that.
He took him to 5 straight. My list, I do have Reggie White. I do have Brian Dawkins. I have Andy Reid. And then I have Chuck Bednarik.
I saw him a lot. Yeah.
An older guy. And then I've seen him in Madden with Ultimate Team. I mean, but he played all 14 seasons. I honestly didn't even know what team he played for. Really, just not even think about it. I mean, he played, let me see, I have his stats pulled up here. He played from 1949 to 1962. I had 169 games played, all with the Eagles.
Dang.
41 turnovers. Obviously, they didn't record sacks back then. But this man played linebacker and center, it looks like.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And he also had 2 NFL championships as well before the one in 1949, one in 1960.
Yo.
So, I mean, this dude, 14 years all with the Eagles, a legendary player. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I felt like it would be right to include him in this list as well. Here.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
I know Jake's butt isn't awake right now, so we'll get his
Well,
we'll get
shocking.
his insight after the podcast is over. I believe the last of the NFC East teams, the team that's, in my opinion, probably going to win the division this year, we have the Washington Football Team here.
This one is interesting because I'll say it was probably the one I was least confident in. It was like
I'll agree with you here. I wasn't very confident in the players that I picked for this.
they don't have the most. They have, I think, the least amount of star power out of any of these teams.
They have a lot of history. They just don't. I mean, they
Yeah.
haven't been good in so long.
Yeah, dude.
But anyway, who do you got?
So let's see if I have the tab pulled up with the reasons for the guys. Maybe I don't. So I'm just gonna go with it. So Daryl Green,
Okay.
the first one. Then we go with a classic Sammy Baugh,
Slinging Sammy.
Slinging Sammy, and then Joe Theismann. Rest in peace to your leg. And finally, a guy who maybe will be a surprise on here, but out of respect for what he could have been, Sean Taylor finds the 4th slot on my team.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I also have him on my list again out of pure respect for what he did. I mean, he was 24 when he was killed tragically. And I mean, the impact that he already had on the league as one of the best safeties, probably a top 3 safety in the league at the time when you had Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu in the league. He was performing at an elite level at 24 years old. He was just, I mean, you've seen highlights of him, I'm sure. If you haven't seen Sean Taylor highlights, look him up.
Go watch him.
Man plays faster and harder than any person I've ever seen play the game of football. Absolute monster to play. It's actually funny that Ray texts us that because my list is Daryl Green, Sammy Baugh, John Riggins, and Sean Taylor. Let me set some John Riggins truth on y'all here real quick. He played 14 seasons in the NFL. He played with the Redskins, or sorry, they were the Redskins then, for 9 years. He had 175 games played. This man averaged 18 yards a touch. 18.
What?
That's not necessarily all on the ground, right? You have receiving.
Yeah, of course.
But he also played fullback. He didn't play halfback. He was a fullback.
Ew. Yeah. How on earth did he have that many yards a touch?
And I know this stat seems low, for running backs, he had 0.6 touchdowns per game. That's not very low. I mean, if you think about it in like the normal NFL, the top guy NFL running backs are getting like 15 to 17 or maybe 18 touchdowns in a season. And then not very consistently. They'll usually dip down below that. This man had 0.6 touchdowns a game, which means in a 14 or 16 game schedule, I think they played with a 14 schedule back then. And this man had probably 8 touchdowns in a season, which if he played in this year's league, he had 11 touchdowns. And to sustain that for a 14-year career, that's pretty good.
That's very good. Yeah.
He also with the then Washington Redskins, he did have 0.7 touchdowns per game, and an 18.5 yards per touch there.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that, finishing up the NFC list there. We go then on to the Chicago Bears. lot of legendary players here.
A lot of choices. This was the first team that I did, and I'm very happy with my results from this team.
I don't know if I'm super happy with mine, but just because how many good players played for the Bears historically,
Yeah, sure.
and how many people were good in the Bears organization. But nonetheless, what's your list?
So up first, we have Walter Payton.
Yep, that's a given.
I think he's a guaranteed. This should be a guaranteed. Dick Butkus,
Okay, yep.
best linebacker, arguably of all time, but definitely of that era where there's an award named after him.
For the best linebacker in college football.
Yeah. And the last two, well, then I have Mike Ditka.
Yep, I do too.
He was just kind of one of those first great tight ends that we are aware of. And then he also was a legendary coach for them. So
Yep.
he kind of gets almost two places on that list.
85 Bears.
And then lastly, I have a more recent one. You could go with a guy like Gale Sayers or something.
Yep.
But I went with Brian Urlocker, who was kind of the staple of their defense for 10, 12 years and led them to a Super Bowl because it wasn't their offense. It was led by their defense, and him at middle linebacker, kind of the coach of the defense, definitely was the biggest reason that they were there.
Yeah. So your first three, I agree with you. Absolutely. Completely.
Sweet.
However, I went with Gale Sayers. I went with George Halas here.
Okay.
I mean, this man his literal nickname is Papa Bear. He played for the Bears back when they were the Decatur Staleys in the first year of the NFL for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Then as a coach, he coached with the Decatur Staleys / Chicago Staleys / Chicago Bears from 1920 to 1929, then from 1933 to 1942, then from 1946 to 1955, then from 1958 to 1967. It spans 48 years of Chicago Bears jersey or Chicago Bears coaching, and a fantastic shout by my dad right there. His initials are on their jerseys that they wear every single game.
Really?
As an executive, he was their owner from 1920 to 1983. As a player and coach, he's won 8 NFL champions. He was a 2-time coach of the year. He's on the 100th anniversary all-time team. I mean,
damn,
this dude is the Chicago Bears if the Chicago Bears was a person.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great call right there.
But yeah, there you go. Chicago Bears, a lot of history. Not so much. There's not a lot of recency there with as far as again with Ray shouting out Jim McMahon there. Wasn't really a great quarterback in his career. He won a Super Bowl with the Bears in '85, but their offense was never. I mean, and we still see it today. Their offense is not what they pride themselves on. The Chicago Bears best headbands in football, absolutely. Jim McMahon, best headband in football. I'll call that. But the Chicago Bears have always prided themselves on a hard-hitting, punchy in the mouth defense. To stop the opponent there. We will go next. I'm sure Ray will have some input on this one. The Detroit Lions.
This one was kind of funny. I don't know.
You have to go back to the 60s for anyone to be relevant. Sans Barry Sanders.
Yeah. Okay, so I got Barry Sanders, of course. I think every person in their right mind.
You can't not
have him. Then it gets, kind of tough. I have Calvin Johnson on there as well. Just for his sheer dominance in the span of time that he played in the NFL. He's one of the most iconic players of our generation. So I felt like I want him on there just because I think he could be the second most talented receiver that's ever been seen on a football field.
Possibly, yeah.
Next up, we got Night Train Lane. Dude, his nickname is just so sick. Like
it's so cool, isn't it?
It's so sick. And then lastly, a guy that I knew the least about on this list was Joe Schmidt. I mean, he was the 1950s All-Decade Team 2-time champion. He won Defensive Player of the Year. I guess it was called Defensive MVP in the 2 years in the 60s. He was the Lineman of the Year. and he was an 8-time first team All Pro with 10 Pro Bowl selections. So he makes that last spot on my Mount Rushmore.
Not a bad shout. Not a bad shout at all. I also have Barry Sanders.
Sure.
Calvin Johnson. Night Train Lane. Oh, hey, look at that. There's Joe Schmidt.
Okay, so we should be shocked from you.
I mean, those first three I feel like are almost necessary for this list.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of like lists that I saw online, Calvin Johnson wasn't on here.
No, he was not.
And I feel like that's doing a disservice to him just because of how well he played throughout his short span in the NFL. I mean, it was 9 seasons, I believe. But, I mean, dude still was a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He played less than a decade in the NFL and was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Joe Schmidt, I have his stats pulled up here. 13 seasons, all with the Lions. 155 games played, 41 total turnovers, 2 NFL championships to back with the Lions back in 1953 and 1957. We don't have Alex Karras on this list, and I will look up what he did here. Let's see. Oh, he's an actor as well. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Okay, shout out to that guy.
Wow. He's in the Hall of Fame. I am not going to lie. I have not heard his name before. Bobby Lane was another guy that I saw.
Me too,
on a couple lists, played quarterback. Fun fact about Alex Karras, as well as being an actor, he was also suspended in 1963 for a gambling suspension.
What?
Yeah, 3-time first team all, or 4-time first team All Pro, 4-time Pro, 3-time. Sorry, excuse me.
You can do it.
4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All Pro. There we go.
Really?
Yep. And yeah, I mean, it looks like he was a fantastic player. He was inducted actually last year into the Hall of Fame posthumously. He died back in 2012 at 71 years old. But yeah, a lot of good Lions back before the 70s. Not so many good ones here. I feel like if Matthew Stafford played his whole career with the Lions and maybe had a little bit more success there with them, he would be on this list for me. But unfortunately, that is not the way the cookie crumbles. Green Bay Packers here. Who do you have?
Favre, Rodgers, and Starr, I think, are pretty staples. I mean,
I got them all on my list. You got their 3 quarterbacks right there.
3 best quarterbacks. I mean, say what you want about Favre and his picks. He's one of the most exhilarating quarterbacks that we've ever seen in the NFL.
I mean,
and one of the best.
He's a perfect gunslinger. He's exactly what a gunslinger is.
True to the name, yeah. And Rodgers has one of the best, is probably the most efficient quarterback that we've ever seen from a turnover standpoint. It's just unreal. I think, what does he have, a 4-to-1 ratio?
It's something just stupid ridiculous.
I want everyone at home to just think about that. For every 4 touchdowns he throws 1 pick. That is unreal. And then I have an honorable mention here, first time, to Don Hudson.
Yeah.
You know, our boy, our favorite receiver.
We do love to talk about him on this show.
But fourth, you literally can't have an NFL season without this guy, Vince Lombardi. Everyone plays for the Lombardi Trophy. He's a staple in the NFL, so he's got to be a staple on that list.
Well, we did it again, Tig.
Shock.
I mean, the first 3, the quarterbacks, I mean, I feel like it would be a disservice to have the Green Bay Packers without those 3 guys. I mean, they all played, or Favre and Starr played 16 seasons with the Packers. Rodgers is playing his 17th now. This upcoming season. Starr won the first 2 Super Bowls of all time with the Packers. Brett Favre won one.
Brett Favre, I think, won
Or
2.
did he win 2? He won 2.
I'm pretty sure. I'll look that up to double check.
And then Rodgers has won 1. Should have been 3 if the GM knew how to draft. But everyone literally, I mean, you said it, everyone plays for the Vince Lombardi trophy in the season. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach to ever coach in the National Football League.
You're right, though. Brett Favre only won 1 Super Bowl.
Okay.
But he's won 3 MVPs.
There you go. I mean, he's a perfect gunslinger. I mean, this dude, every one of those Packers quarterbacks it was so fun to watch. Bart Starr, obviously, you don't see a lot of Bart Starr highlights, but he did play in one of the most iconic games of all time. And yeah, the Green Bay Packers. I feel like that's a very, very solid list there.
Yeah.
Very solid list for the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, boo. You just slipped right past me. Boo.
I haven't joked about the Packers being solid in so long.
Yeah, thank you for claiming it was a joke, because it's just a joke every time. It really is.
I don't know. We'll see this season. The Minnesota Vikings here.
Minnesota Vikings. On the Minnesota Vikings. Okay. I'm happy with this list. So first up.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this list is going to be the same as yours.
Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah. 10th in touchdowns all time.
Yeah. I remember the trivia night we had.
Yes, sir. First ever one.
Exactly. Fran Tarkenton. Next up, we got Randy Moss.
Can't not have him on this list.
Can't not have him. Probably the only list he'll make for a team. I don't think a player should be able to make a team more than once.
I agree. I agree. I did not put him on any other list.
AP is on my list. And then lastly, I did look at a guy like Alan Page, you see on a lot of lists.
Yep.
But I have Chris Carter.
I also have Chris Carter here.
Okay. So sweet.
I did. I mean, I was between Alan Page and Chris Carter. Just because obviously we never got to see Alan Page play, but he was on a lot of these lists that I was seeing.
Exactly.
And he was dominant when he did play. So I just, if you put him instead of Chris Carter here, I don't think you'd be wrong. Wouldn't have any sort of problem with it. But I feel
not at all.
At least those are the 4 guys for me.
Clearly, me too.
That are on the yeah. There you go. All right, we'll go to the NFC South here.
My boys.
Let me pull this guy up here. All right.
I'll quickly just remind all our viewers, the Panthers is clear as day. It's Cameron Jarrell, it's Steve Smith, it's J Pep, and it's Luke Kuechly.
So I did come up with a list for the Carolina Panthers, just because I did not do my Panthers one, as you did not do your Chargers one, on the pod on Saturday. Those are the 4 guys that I have on there.
They gotta be. I mean, when you want to talk about icons, like Cam is our only MVP. Steve Smith is probably our best player we've ever had. Luke Kuechly's the smartest defensive player I've ever seen play the game. And J Pep is just so iconic.
Yeah. I mean, Julius Peppers played so many years for the Panthers, even came back to them after
he returned.
His Packers stint. Luke Kuechly played all of his seasons, won one or multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards.
I think he had 2.
Okay. I thought it was 2, but I didn't want to
double check.
I didn't want to I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But Cam Newton, their only MVP ever. And was very good. Great, even up until a couple of years ago for the Panthers. I mean, brought him to a Super Bowl. And then Steve Smith, I mean, potentially a top 10 wide receiver of all time.
Yeah.
So
I looked up how many depoys does Luke have, and or does Luke Kuechly have? And all that came up is for this season, Luke Kuechly led the NFL with 81 defensive stops. I really don't know what that means.
What is a defensive stop?
I don't know, but he had 81.
Good for him.
So don't sleep on my boy.
Okay.
Let me see.
We'll go to the Falcons here.
Okay.
I'll start going first here. So
people know, try and figure out that you're not cheating.
Yeah, by copying your list. Because it is the narrative at this point.
It really is.
I have 3 easy ones that just came to my mind without a doubt. Matt Ryan.
Yep.
Julio Jones.
Yep.
Neon Dion.
Yep.
And then there's a guy. So now here's a guy. That obviously, I mean, I had to look up a list of this guy just because I genuinely have never heard of him. I saw Roddy White on a couple lists. I'm not gonna lie.
I did too. I did too, and I was like,
no way.
I really hope
good.
not. I really hope that that's not a guy that's
it's
on your
not.
Mount
He's
Rushmore.
not my fourth. I promise you, he's not my fourth.
No, I'm just mean in general for the team as well. Like, if, I would feel so bad for the Falcons if that dude was on their Mount Rushmore. How bad of a franchise you have to be?
A very bad franchise. Also, before I say this final player, if you haven't on YouTube, on the YouTube channel Secret Base, they're doing a 7-part series that covers the entire history of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not a Falcons fan. I don't care about the Falcons.
There's no way I would watch that.
One of the most irrelevant things, but they make it so interesting. They did it before with a baseball team, but they're doing it now. And literally, like, it doesn't really talk about, like, it talks about the games, but it goes so in depth and behind the scenes that on why stuff happened and like a bunch of like domino effect stuff that happened within the organization. So much fun to watch. Part 5 of 7 is coming out on Tuesday. I highly, highly, highly recommend it to watch. If you have 40 minutes apiece on your hands. Anyway, my fourth player is Tommy Nobis here. And I have his stats up here, but I want to go to his Pro Football Reference page because genuinely the greatest website to ever exist. 5-time Pro Bowler, one-time first team All-Pro. There we go. It looks like he had 12 interceptions. Where's his tackles? Is it on this one? He had 25 total turnovers in 11 seasons, all played with the Falcons. No championships because the Falcons have never won one. But a guy that I saw on a few lists over a bunch of different websites, and definitely a guy that I think embodies who the Falcons are. They talk about him a little bit in the in that documentary that I talked about.
Referenced.
Yeah, thank you. But I mean, a guy that was played all his games with the Falcons. Obviously, I can't talk a lot about him because never watched him play. Had only heard about him a couple weeks ago, but a guy that deserves to be on this list nonetheless.
Sure, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have that guy.
That's fine. Totally fine.
I have a guy a little more recent. This might be a little controversial because of some of his off the field antics.
Roddy White, no.
No. But I have Michael Vick on here.
Okay.
He just, I don't know, he's either the first or second best rushing quarterback of all time, soon to be guaranteed top 3 when Lamar joins that group. I can't give it to Lamar yet, but he's going to. You already know. And
eventually it's bound to happen.
I don't know. He's an icon. He was great for the Eagles, but there were better Eagles than there were Falcons, in my opinion. And with the Falcons, I was sure of Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Dion. And the fourth guy, I was like, who else do I think is one of their best talents? And then it was Michael Vick to me. Especially when I started seeing Roddy White in the top 5, I was like, okay, you know what? I feel confident in Michael Vick here.
It's just gross to see him there because I don't know how good he obviously we saw him play for a little bit. I'm gonna look up his stats here just because there's no way he was that good. He was a first team All-Pro once.
Oh,
4-time Pro Bowler.
In how many years?
He played in the league for 11 years. He had 808 receptions for almost 11,000 yards and 63 touchdowns. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good all the time.
Dude,
But
you weren't.
nonetheless,
I have Luke Kuechly's Pro Football Reference pulled up right now from like when we were talking about him earlier.
yeah,
Dude, he never had less than 100 tackles in a season
ever.
That's
His
lowest
dumb.
was 102. But
That's so dumb.
dude, he had 164 in his rookie year.
I'm sorry. That's just you said 164?
Yeah. He played 8
shouldn't-
seasons and he made first team all pro 5 times and the Pro Bowl 7 times. You want to know when he didn't make the Pro Bowl? It was his rookie year when he had 164 tackles and 2 picks
That's so dumb. I'm sorry, but that's just
and 3 fumble recoveries. Like he definitely just should have made it.
yeah. He might be good. I'm just saying that as like he might.
He's
He
not
might
that
be,
good though.
No, he was kind of buns.
Dude, he was first team all pro in 2015 and he only played 13 games.
Yeah, he was kind of great. New Orleans Saints are up next here because we already talked about Carolina Panthers. You can't have this list without Drew Brees.
Well, that's the one given.
And then there's a couple. These are all relatively recent people for me. Because they were the Aints for so long. They were irrelevant pretty much until the 90s anyway.
Yeah.
That a lot of their players, they only have one Super Bowl championship. Came in 2009. But I have a guy that may be a little controversial here, Marquis Colston. He was so pivotal in that Saints offense. Genuine, he was Drew Brees' favorite target for how many years?
Probably like
10 seasons.
10 seasons, yeah.
Played 163 games, had half a touchdown a game as a wide receiver. Obviously won a Super Bowl with him. I could have put a guy like Archie Manning here. I couldn't do it because he wasn't good. I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna lie. I have Archie Manning just for the star power factor of he created two of the most, I don't know, 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. He created both of them.
He
helped create them. Yeah, he helped create 2 people that genuinely you can't tell the NFL story without.
That's
so
true.
I put him up there for his icon factor because when you think of old Saints, he's really the only one you can think of.
He's the only one
which is I think that says something about him because they were so bad, and he's one of the guys that he's a guy that you can name. So I have him there. I'll tell you.
Here's the thing. You definitely can put him on this list. I think that it's not incorrect to do it. The thing is, for me, absolutely a guy, again, we said it's always not going to be the best guys. It's going to be the most polarizing guys for that team. He was only a 2-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
And his real name's Alicia.
Is he married to Steph Curry?
Not Aisha,
but it's pretty close.
Anyway, rounding out my list, I have Deuce McAllister on this list.
Deuce.
Fantastic.
I don't have him either.
he was on Family Feud last night. They did another NFL Stars versus NFL Legends episode.
Oh, really?
Keenan Allen was on it, so you had to respect.
I'm sure they lost.
You had Matt Judon for your favorite team, the New England Patriots.
Okay, shout out to Matthew.
They had Chase Young, and then I forget who the other stars, but they also had they had Vince Wilfork on there, who was hilarious to watch in a suit. He actually has lost a decent bit, not a decent bit of weight, but he definitely doesn't look as huge as he was when he played for the Texans and the Patriots. But to round out this list, it's another instance of a coach being on here, Sean Payton.
I also have Sean Payton.
Okay. I almost thought I was maybe a little crazy for doing it, but again,
he has their only Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. He coached their only Super Bowl and
they've been dominant like every year that he's been their coach.
Exactly. They've done so well. And he's been there. He's, I think, the longest tenured head coach. If someone listening wants to fact check me on that, feel free to. If he's not the most or the longest tenured, he's at least the second longest tenured. I know that. He's just been with the Saints for so long, and definitely deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore.
My dad just said Bobby Herbert, and Dad, I'm not gonna lie to you, I have genuinely no idea who that is.
He was a guy that he wore 36. Don't tell me how I know that.
My issue is I'm looking at a list right now, and he's nowhere near the top 10, even on this list.
I'm pretty sure he played for the Falcons as well, because he was in the So he was a guy that played, because I watched this Falcons documentary. Bobby Urbe, it's like Urbe, or it's French. It's not Hebert. It's like Herbe or something like that. A bear, I think, is the correct pronunciation of it. But he wasn't really. He was a fan favorite. I know he was a fan favorite quarterback who was most of the times a backup in the league. If I'm sorry, I just hit the mic. That's going to sound gross. Ray with a good shout here. Tom Dempsey
with the half foot.
The half foot kicking a 63-yarder, which held the record for so long before Matt Prater broke it.
Yeah.
By a longest field goal kick in NFL.
Also, shout out to Sam Mills.
Yeah, Sam Mills did play for the Saints. Only person to have a jersey retired by the Carolina Panthers.
Which I really don't. After looking at his stats, I don't know why his jersey was retired.
Anyway, your list, my friend T.
Well, we have 3 of the same that I called out. Or no, we have 2 of the same, Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Then I also have Archie Manning. Then 4th up, I have what's widely regarded as up to a few lists as their second best player in NFL history is Ricky Jackson.
Sure.
And this thing just says, think of a defensive statistic and check where Jackson ranks in Saints history. Forced fumbles, he's first. Recovered fumbles, first. Sacks, not even close, first. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler. And apparently he was the greatest player in Saints history for a very long time, up until Drew Brees. Their first Hall of Famer, which
nice,
finished his career in 93. And apparently someone that young football players grew up idolizing, not just New Orleans, but throughout the Gulf South. So I had to shout him out here because I couldn't think of anyone good. That's like I couldn't think of anyone legendary other than him for this team.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely good shout there. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I just have their entire roster from last season. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the thing. You could put Tom Brady on this list genuinely.
You can't though.
You can't. But
especially because
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, especially because we're kind of having the rule, not the rule, but like you shouldn't be on more than one.
I mean, yeah, he's easily gonna be on the Patriots one
when there's one exception. Cam Newton will be also on the Patriots one, but like that's just the only exception.
He's the exception. I mean, I'm putting Phillip Rivers on the Colts one too. So we do have the Buccaneers up here. There were two easy answers here for me.
Me too.
Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks.
Easy.
Cornerstones of the defense for a while. Won them their Super Bowl back in, I can't say their Super Bowl because they just won one. But in 2002, when they won it against Carl's Raiders, who I got to give them credit. They scored yesterday in a preseason game, which is something the Chargers couldn't do. So I'll give them credit, I guess.
Chargers backups and third stringers really could not get the job done like the Raiders.
Darn, man. If only literally we didn't start 20 out of 22 of our starters, and then in the second half, none of them were playing. Oh, no.
What are you going to do, man?
Yeah, what a roar to go on. Anyway, John Lynch is also on this list for me. I believe
John Lynch is on my list as well.
Recent Hall of Famer, I believe, was just recently inducted.
I think so, yeah. I mean, he's now a GM
this year,
of the 49ers.
Check that because now I'm curious. I do this so much. I just go on these tangents.
I mean, he's now a GM of the 49ers, so.
Yeah. 9-time All-Pro. Holy crap. or 9-time Pro Bowler. Sorry. Hall of Famer. Yes, he is a Hall of Famer. And then I had a guy. I saw this guy's name on a couple lists. There were two names that I kept seeing on lists. Mike Allstott was one that I knew,
Of course.
and then there was this guy Leroy Selman who I didn't know.
Leroy.
And so I looked him up here. He was a first overall pick.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, 6-time Pro Bowler, first team All Pro, one time on the Hall of Fame 1980s team. Played his entire career with the Buccaneers. He had 121 games played, 10 total turnovers, 23 sacks, but that was, I think, that was like during the time where like some of that was when sacks were measured. Some of the time that he played wasn't. So I mean, it's more than that. But he was a guy that I saw on a lot of lists. He played defensive end. A guy that had, I mean, in Pro Football Reference, there's this one website that has him at 23 sacks. What I love about Pro Football Reference, they go back and they recorded stats from when he was playing in the league, when stats weren't officially recorded, and recorded those sacks for him. Finished with 78.5. I mean, in a team or in a period of time where they wore the creamsicles and they were one of the most god-awful teams you have ever seen in your entire life, where they lost 26 straight games to start their NFL franchise, he was a bright spot. So Leroy Selman takes the last spot on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Mount Rushmore to me.
Sure. Okay. I'll respect that. My dad said he partied with Bobby Hebert on a cruise with some other Saints guys when they were on the cruise with their wife, that he was piano playing.
What?
Which is pretty sick.
Bobby A. Bear. That's a cool show.
I guess that's why he shouted him out, because he was partying with him.
Well, I mean, when you said the name, I was like, dude, I've heard that name before, and I'm pretty sure it was because of this Falcons documentary that I've been watching. And he was always like, they always had him as a backup, but he was always a fan favorite. Apparently. So
apparently he was.
There you go.
So I had the three of the same, with the John Lynch, Warren Sapp, and Derek Brooks.
Of course.
I have a fourth guy, and I think this is more just because I love this guy so much. I read a book about him.
I know who it is then.
Yeah. Back in I think it was 5th grade. I actually read this book 3 times.
Night hoops.
Well, I have read that book 3 times. This one, my teacher never knew I read it 3 times, but I would do it for different book reports.
Yeah.
I forget what the book was called, but it's about Tiki and Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber, one of the biggest icons for this, for the Bucks. I mean, he played from 97 to 2012, all for the Bucks, which is a long career. Few first team All Pros, few Pro Bowls. He had a season with 10 picks. The dude was still a stud. I mean, even towards the latter end of his career, in 2012, he had 4 picks and he was 37 years old.
I mean, it's not bad. Again, you talk about corner as it's not really a stat position where you're going to look at stats for the whole story or even most of the story. But I mean, if you can get 4 picks while you're 37 years old,
it's pretty good.
More power to you.
So I really love him. He lands on my 4th spot just because no one else jumped out to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, who do I think of when I think of the Bucks? It's Rondé Barber.
Yeah.
Along with Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks. So
there you go.
Big shout out to him.
I like it. Good list there, Tad man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
The Arizona Cardinals. This
I'd rather
was a little
not even do this one. I'd rather not do this one. Well, I have 3 players. I have 3 players that are 2 I definitely didn't know of, and 1 I had heard of before.
Okay.
On this list.
All right. Well,
I'm glad we're starting with this because wow.
Let me pull this guy's stats up because I don't have his stats up right now. I've been keeping one tab open to do my stats because if I don't, my computer will literally combust if I have 8 tabs open. It gets to a point where it just will not run. This guy, I'll talk about him last because I don't want to say his name first. Larry Fitzgerald has to be on this list.
I mean, it's not even close. He's the only one that is a guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shoot, I lost it. Hold on. Larry Wilson was the guy. I had heard of, but not
That's
necessarily.
me too. Okay.
This is his Wikipedia, not his Pro Football Reference.
Larry Wilson has a defensive player of the year. He's in the Hall of Fame. You know, he's
Yeah.
60s and 70s all decade team.
5-team All Pro or 5-time All Pro.
5-team.
He was on the 5th team All Pro. Wasn't very good.
That's not very good.
Maybe top
yeah.
5 in his
I
position.
mean, he's a bucket, but like again, I had only heard of him.
Correct. And
Like,
and I believe it was when we were doing the
safety list.
lists.
Yeah.
I have another recent guy here that I saw in a lot of lists, and I was a little bit confused. What just happened there? Well, that was weird. My tab like had a mind of its own there and took itself away from the page, made itself its own like separate web page. That was weird. Anyway, before I go on another RAR there.
Not a RAR. RAWR.
Shout out Carl.
Carl.
I have Anquan Bolden on this list.
Okay.
I mean, played his first 7 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals. He had under 1,000 yards only 2 of those seasons. And one of the guys like recently, but without it being like currently playing. I mean, a guy that I immediately think of when I think of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
I mean, I don't think they've ever won a NFL championship, and if they have, it was back in the 1920s. I know they have the longest active championship drought, so I think they have won one just way back in the 20s when they were like the Chicago Cardinals.
Yeah.
But the other guy I had on this list purely because almost like a Sean Taylor kind of incidents here. I have Pat Tillman on this list.
Sure.
A guy that only played 4 seasons in the NFL before leaving for a military duty, and then was killed by friendly fire in combat. I mean, a guy that played his heart out every single time he stepped on the field. His career statistics again aren't great. Some might even say not very good. But a guy that literally, I don't actually want to say this in case I'm wrong. But a guy that I, again, immediately think of when I think of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Let me just see. Okay. I was wrong. I'm glad I didn't say this. I thought they had a Pat Tillman statue outside of the Arizona Cardinals Stadium. It's outside of the Arizona State University Stadium.
Okay.
So I didn't want to say that just in case I was incorrect there. But again,
kind of half correct.
You
were kind of half correct.
Sure. But this isn't the ASU or the other ASU. Mount Rushmore.
App State, baby.
Yeah. I'll go with your list. We actually kind of have to run through this pretty quickly, just since we only have about 7 minutes left here.
That's fine with me. This is Dan Deerdorf.
Ew, Dan Deerdorf. You seriously have? I'm sorry.
The hell
I
that
hate
guy
him.
is.
It's from my dad.
Okay, he's an offensive tackle.
Correct.
Couldn't have told you his name before this day.
Yep.
And then Charlie Trippy, who played in the 40s and 50s. 40s all-decade team.
Sure.
He was just listed as their 4th best player in their history. And so I was like, all right, dude, I can't think of anyone else. Pat Tillman, I considered. My other thing was like with the Sean Taylor thing, it is out of respect, but like he chose to end his career in the NFL. It wasn't like
correct.
It ended prematurely. Like he was done with it. And like, it's so tragic what happened to him. But I guess I was looking more like Sean Taylor was going to be one of the greats for the Redskins.
Correct.
Yeah. Pat Tillman was not, if he hadn't have, like, he wouldn't have been a legend for the Cardinals if he hadn't have died, which kind of sucks to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my list.
And
of course, Fitz and Larry Wilson, but you already had those guys.
The Los
Speed run.
Angeles, St. Louis, Los Angeles Rams.
All right, just go. Just go.
Kurt Warner,
Yep.
Isaac Bruce.
No. That's good. Exciting. We have different lists.
Eric Dickerson.
No.
Aaron Donald.
Yes. I do have Aaron Donald.
Okay.
Aaron Donald is one of the best players of all time. So you got to have Aaron Donald, one of the most dominant players, especially from a defensive tackle standpoint.
I mean, yeah, I had Deacon Jones here.
I have Deacon Jones on my list.
I'm almost sad that you put him and I didn't, because he did play his last couple of years with the Chargers.
Yeah, you kind of disrespected your boy there. Come on.
I mean, I think he recently just passed away as well. But anyway, who's
I have another running back. I have Marshall Faulk.
Okay.
Just because he was a part of that, best show on turf offense. He was a little more iconic to me. Maybe he wasn't as good, but he also had the 1,000 yard season.
Right.
I don't know. He seemed like, when I thought of Rams, I thought of him before Eric Dickerson, and that was a sign to me I should have him over my list. But that was just for me. All right, next.
This one's pretty easy for me.
49ers.
The Niners one. I mean, you have to have Joe Montana and Steve Young on this list without
and
a
Jerry
doubt.
Rice. Well,
And
Jerry Rice, I would do that.
From a quarterback standpoint, yes. Jerry Rice is potentially the best player to ever grace a football field.
Yeah.
It's him or Tom Brady. That's just the top two football player and NFL players ever. And then I have Ronnie Lott as my fourth.
I have him as an honorable mention.
Okay.
As my second honorable mention, but I thought, you have these three. Why not keep it going? Bill Walsh.
Sure.
One of the best coaches we've ever seen.
Sure.
Had to put him. Ronnie Lott, of course. I think podcast listeners will know I love Ronnie Lott a lot. Maybe
Ronnie
not.
Lott a lot.
But then, Bill Walsh is just so iconic. And that offense and that dominance was the best we'd seen pre-Patriots. So 49ers had to get a special shout there. Bill Walsh, well done. And then the Seahawks.
Yeah. Let me real quickly pull this guy's stats up. Just so I have him. Stop pulling up Wikipedia. There we go.
Why did Ray say Rosie Greer?
Will Greer.
Oh, okay.
So Seahawks, go to my original list here. I have Russell Wilson.
Yep.
Steve Largent, obviously.
I mean, yeah, those are the guarantees.
Those are the absolute guarantees. I have Larry Wilson. Sorry, nope, that's the Cardinals. Walter Jones.
I have Walter Jones as well.
Okay, played left tackle from 97 to 2008, all seasons with the Seahawks. A Hall of Famer, 9-time Pro Bowler, four-time first-team All-Pro.
One of the best left tackles in NFL history,
without a doubt. And then I have someone potentially controversial, a guy that I don't personally like, Richard Sherman.
Ooh, I considered Cam Chancellor. I considered Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman just kind of didn't play with them long enough, in my opinion. And he's moved to a few different teams since then. Cam Chancellor was just like such a force in that backfield. Yeah. I also considered Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
Was another guy I considered. But I settled on a different running back. Sean Alexander is finishing up my list.
Yeah. I have the same gripes about Sean Alexander as you do about Richard Sherman. I mean, to me, just didn't play long enough at a high enough level to be I did consider him here. Another guy that I considered honestly was Pete Carroll. But again, I mean, everyone knows him as the Seahawks head coach, but I mean USC as well. I mean, he's so iconic for USC.
Sean Alexander's span from 01 to 05 is unreal.
I see that. That's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, man.
Wow. I did not realize how dominant that man was.
Holy shit.
I didn't even give it a second thought here. 1,880 yards and 27 touchdowns. He set the record in 05 for rushing touchdowns in a season just to have it broken a year after that. How sad is that?
That is kind of sad. But he also in 2000, 2, he had 460 receiving yards. So trying to be CMC. But yeah, we'll just, it's 9 a.m.
It's 9 a.m. Look at that. Just turned, I believe. Thank you guys so much for listening. We didn't get to our
Other
top moments. That's what we were doing. Literally had a brain freeze right there, or a brain fart. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Check out Wednesday's episode. We'll see what we have for you guys on Wednesday, and then tune in on Saturday for our season prediction extravaganza.
Get excited.
Prepare for an hour and a half, 2 hours, because that's how long it's going to be.
Probably be 2 hours, honestly.
With
how many tangents we go on.
For real. We're going to have, from the 16 seed to the 1 seed and both conferences, that we're going to have our playoffs, that we're going to have MVP, offensive MVP, or offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, all the awards.
It's going to be a huge year.
It's going to be quite literally the biggest year in NFL history.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. And with that, this has been What the Football.
What the Football.
What the Football.
And there it is.